Hello, everyone. My name is Alexis Hutchinson. I'm a first-year experience success coach, and I am guest hosting the FYE Talks podcast today, along with Kevin Parent. And we have a guest, Forrest Poole, who's tuned in as well. Kevin and Forrest are going to shed a little bit more light and give us a little more explanation about study abroad, which is something I'm sure is super interesting to most, but can be something that seems a little daunting, need more information about it. And it's such a fantastic opportunity. We just had to get them in here to tell you more about it and to help you understand how feasible it is and how everyone can afford it. And so I'm going to turn it over to Kevin to kind of explain who he is, what he does, and give a little bit more background.
Thank you, Alexis. Just wanted to reiterate what she said. ECTC does have a very robust international education program. Students here have went to over 30 different countries around the world. A lot of that has some scholarship funding, both from the college, Dr. Pate, and also the companies that help lead these tours. So we're just here to talk about that today, that it's not unreachable. You can go. There are many options. The one we have for next May is actually going to 3 countries in England, Wales, and where else is it going to go? England, Wales, did I say that? Ireland, and Wales, there we go. I should know that. So we're going to talk about that. Forrest, on the other hand, has actually been to 5 different countries, 4 different countries inside of Europe. He's going to talk about that. And we're going to go back and forth so that we can maybe help answer some of your questions about what can you do to go.
Awesome. So we're super, super excited, like I said. And so when you think about study abroad, I feel like a lot of students have some misconceptions about that. And so when it comes to studying abroad, I guess, do you have to participate in classes? Is it for credit? Do you get college credit? Can you shine a little bit of light on that, Kevin?
Yeah, good question. Actually, there's 2 different programs that we have. We have one group that goes through the EF company, which is Education First. They offer the touring of cultures only. There's no class associated with it, no credit. We also offer the flip side of that, which is KIES, Kentucky Institute for International Studies. Now, within that program, you can actually take a class and tour at the same time and receive credit. So the good thing, there's pluses and minuses to both. If people want to contact me, I'll kind of split those out. People that take the ones that are not for credit, there's still scholarship funding, but they just want to tour and have fun and enjoy the culture. On the other hand, some say, well, why not, if I do go, why don't I just get credit for it? And financial aid will pay the total price for it since it does include credit. So there's both pluses and minuses. Again, you talk to me, I'll help put you into the right bucket and see which one fits you best.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, it's wonderful that you can not only get these fantastic trips at a super, super affordable cost, but then you're also getting the credit, getting to take that to transfer and do all those great things. That's just fantastic. So I'm going to let Forrest introduce himself and kind of explain a little bit about his experience with study abroad, why it was awesome, how it changed his life, things like that. So there you go, Forrest.
Forrest Poole. Yeah, I won't say former student. I'm a graduate of ECTC. I'm attending WKU here at the Elizabethtown campus now. But when I was going to school here in fall semester of 2017, I really lucked out. I didn't know it at the time. My CIT 105 course, Mr. Kevin, he was my instructor, and wasn't even really thinking about, traveling abroad or anything like that. I mean, it had always been something, kind of like a pipe dream, I guess, in your mind. Oh yeah, I would love to go. I'd never been outside the United States, and just pretty much been around the southeastern United States. Never even really traveled much in the United States. I was thinking, well, maybe hopefully one day I might get to go to Canada or Mexico or somewhere like that, one thing I really liked about Kevin's classes is he integrates his travels into the class material, and he got to talking about it. Of course, there were flyers around, and that year he was offering two trips. One was to Japan, and one was an Eastern Europe trip, and I thought, well, this might be my only chance to get out of the country, so I'm going to go to as many countries as I can, and so I ended up getting to, and yeah, I was that way too. The cost, it's easy to think about it just costs too much. There's no way I could ever do it. And one great thing, of course, I did an EF, just a tour, was that the economy of it. I mean, it's easy to, because one thing that goes along with that, it's not just the hotel room or whatever, but actually the tours that are scheduled, the bus trips, between places, all that counts too. So the price was right, I guess you could say, and it was doable. I actually, now, yeah, I don't want to get too far off into that, but I just, I did take out a student loan for that. Now, I don't take out student loans just to take them out, but this was what I saw maybe as being a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I took an interest-free loan, and I thought, well, at least nothing else, I'll just have to pay it back. I won't have to pay any interest on it or anything. So that was another plus, that I didn't just go take out a bank loan to do this. But anyway, I ended up getting to, well, technically, I guess you would say I have touched down in 6 different countries in Europe, which was, we landed in Holland, we landed in Amsterdam, and then flew I've been to Hungary, we went to Budapest, Hungary. Then in Budapest, we started the bus tour, and I just, one thing that I loved about it over there is the architecture. Just the way the buildings are built. They're so much older and different, than here. But I got to go to Budapest. Then we drove from Budapest through Slovakia. I went through the High Tatra Mountains. Went to Krakow, Poland. Got to go to Auschwitz. I guess that would have, what you would say would be the main educational, really, educational. I mean, there's more to it, but, for me anyway, that was the big draw of the trip and getting to, that's one thing that wherever you choose to go, is that for me, it wasn't just a matter of reading these things in books anymore. Or whatever, these places are there, but when you actually see them, I dare anybody to go to Auschwitz and walk down that gravel path at Birkenau at the extermination camp and not be moved by that. That's still one of the most emotional days of my life, when you walk down that path really quietly and you realize 1 million people, walked down that path and died at the end of it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a downer.
No, not at all.
But I wanted to add to that just because it was, to me, even it was very moving, very touching. I never thought I was going to be there in my life, let alone taking all the students with me. But as Forrest said, when we walked through that gate, knowing that some people never left, I mean, when we walked through there, it put this very heavy feeling on me. And both the concentration camps are still there. We went to 2 different ones, and within those 2, over 1.5 million people were murdered. Yeah. And we went into one of the gas chamber buildings where people scratched so hard to get out, there were marks on the concrete walls.
Oh my goodness.
It was just very, very, I can't describe, like Forrest said, it's one thing to read about it in a book, but to actually be there and to see it this many years later and it's still there. But they didn't remove it because they wanted people to learn from those mistakes. So that's a lifelong impact for myself as well, even though I've been around the world, but like Forrest said, it just really sticks, it sticks with you.
Absolutely. And so to recap on some of the things that you kind of mentioned, as far as finances, I know, I'm from Eastern Kentucky, even was like, we never grew up with having a lot. And so it's one of those things to say, and I think I speak for a lot of students when somebody says this tour, and okay, you're going to touch down in 6 different countries. You're going to see, all these immaculate, wonderful things that you've never seen in your life, monuments and all kinds of wonderful things. Like, how would you comfort somebody, just anybody, FAFSA, no FAFSA, letting them know that it's affordable, because I know taking out a loan for me wouldn't have been feasible. I respect that is an option for a lot of people, but I mean, if they wanted to kind of avoid getting into a little bit of debt, which the debt was certainly worth it in your opinion, Forrest. And so we'll discuss those options, but like I said, just if you were wanting to avoid a loan, what options are there to get away from that?
Yeah, depending on what financial aid status is, you can use some of that. There are scholarships that Dr. Pate, the president of ECTC, provides to me every year for students that need help to go. And it really does increase our numbers because there's probably another 10 students that go every year because of these financial aid and or scholarships that you don't have to pay back. Yeah. So the scholarships are both from the company directly, from the different companies that we use, Keys and EF, and also through Dr. Pate and the college. And also there's another group called the Central Kentucky Community Foundation that I also obtain funding through. So there's 3 or 4 different avenues that I bring money in. I always tell people, if you really want to go, contact me. I'll make sure it happens.
Fantastic. And so that's wonderful. And so speaking on the other side of it, if a loan is feasible for us, do you feel that was a worthy purchase? You feel like you got your return on investment and that was a good thing that you did?
Absolutely. And it just depends on how I choose to look at it too, as far as how these things got paid back. And So I'm always going to kind of, bring this up. One thing that maybe a lot of people don't think about, if you make really good grades, you're probably going to get some scholarship money. So, just depending on how, so actually what I did, because I did, and actually these trips help with that. I do believe, but also, so I can look at it. Okay, I did get some scholarship money while I was at ECTC. I got a transfer scholarship to WKU. So what I did was I took that scholarship money and paid off my loan. I don't have it anymore.
Fantastic.
And so, I mean, I'm not trying to, I'm just saying, if you're willing to work hard and try as hard as you can to get those good grades, you can pay for something like that. I mean, sometimes it's just all about how you choose to look at it.
Oh, definitely. And I think that is just excellent, just knowing that, you had that opportunity and you're able to put that on scholarship applications, your resumes, all kinds of things to then get that money back to you. And so even if maybe it's not there at the front in the form of a scholarship that is specifically for this tour, just knowing that you have access to those funds is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And so it's very feasible, very doable. We've kind of seen how that works. As far as planning the trips, what goes into planning a trip like this? I mean, how do you pick these countries?
I send out polls different times. I go to different international education events throughout the year, throughout Kentucky, and actually throughout the nation. And I pick up on what students have the most interest in. Also do Survey Monkeys locally. When our local honor students do group meetings and things on campus, I also have polls there just to kind of get input of where people want to go. We actually offer over 25 different countries per year. So if you don't like any of the ones that we have this year, they will change next year. And that's all based on that polling and where students tend to want to go. And I always tell people, I know everybody loves Europe, and Forrest and I both got a great experience out of Europe, but also try to look at some of the other countries that we offer, like Japan, Australia, New Zealand. Maybe we're even going to eventually do a tour to Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam. So try to open your mind a little bit. Europe is great, but also don't forget about the other countries around the world. I'm also trying to set some up for Africa as well.
And now we break for a program plug.
Hello, my name is Chelsea Hawkins, and I am the Vice President of the FYE Club here at ECTC. The FYE Club is focused on having fun and helping our local community. We have 2 meetings every month on the 1st and 15th at 3:30 p.m. Currently on Discord. We host a lot of fun events like costume contests, food drives, and movie nights, and a whole bunch of other stuff. We're currently accepting new members, and we love to see you join. If you're interested in joining this awesome club, you can email Pam Best at pbest0002@kctcs.edu, our president Trinity Bradley at tbradley0061@kctcs.edu, or myself at chawkins0069@kctcs.edu. We hope to see you join, and thank you.
Oh, that would be wonderful. I mean, I couldn't imagine the impact that would have, just on anybody going to these countries. Like you said, Forrest, it kind of changed how you looked at the world, right? You were able to see a lot of things that maybe you'd only read about. As for somebody who's not traveled internationally, and I think, again, I speak for a lot of students who've not had that experience, it's kind of like you said, a dream. It's one of those things that you're like, I want to do it, but how's it going to work? I think a big part of that also comes from just not knowing how to travel. Like I'm unfamiliar with that process. Can you shed a little light on that, Kevin? Like, okay, I've never had a passport. I've only flown once. I've not flown internationally. What does that look like?
Well, I always tell people, once they start working with me, I actually walk you through the process of how to obtain a passport, which is good for 10 years, and what to expect. We also have a pre-departure meeting, what to bring, what to pack, what not to bring, what not to pack, how to connect to the different electrical outlets in Europe and around the world. So I go over all that step by step. I'm almost like a mom or dad that kind of carries you along the way, so you don't have to worry about all that. And the tour company as well sends out emails. In addition to what I do, I work face to face with people. I also do different meetings, and we'll do a lot of more electronic meetings as well, just to get you ready for that step by step.
Oh, fantastic. And so there's a lot more in-depth guidance, I think, than people probably realize. I mean, just plugging things in, simply as that, having that knowledge ahead of time, because I'm sure you have to have an adapter or something like that to mitigate any problems you would have. But you go through that. You really guide them through that process. And that's fantastic, just having that guiding hand to get you there. And so do you go on all of these trips that you organize?
I can't go on them all because I'd be gone all year. I tell people that. I wish I could. But I actually put people into probably I'd say 5 to 10 countries per year. I usually go on the largest one that has the most students. And again, for this next May, that's going to be the one in 3 countries in Europe. So I'm going to go on that one. I can't go on them all, but I will put students in the other ones as well. And I just wanted to say something about Forrest. He is a go-getter. He probably got more on that one tour. I'm not just saying this. And some people get in their entire lifetime vacation or touring because he learned so much and got so much history from these places that have only been in our history books that we've only seen or read online or in books.
And I like to say,
I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead.
How was that for you? How was getting, you said you hadn't traveled much prior to this. How did that look when you were trying to figure out what to pack, what to bring? Did you feel overwhelmed by the process or was it pretty easy? How did that look?
No, I didn't really feel overwhelmed. Just, and that was a great thing was having, EF plus having Kevin right there, on stuff like that. And, taking his advice and, so I ended up, for what was it? I think it was 10 days on the ground, 2 days flying. For 12 days, everything I took with me, I didn't have to check any baggage. I took everything, just so and things like that. Main thing was knowing like maybe how much spending money to take, things like that for me. So, getting money converted. I did convert some here before I left, and it never goes far enough. I could have carried a little bit more, but you always can. But so that side of things, no, the support was there, no problem at all. I didn't really feel overwhelmed by the process. The main thing, and so I started the process really early, like 9 months before the trip, so or close to that. So as far as having everything ready to go, that it wasn't like, okay, I'm going to go on this trip and we're leaving in 2 weeks. For me, it wasn't really like that. So,
Kevin, you feel that that's an adequate amount of time, kind of the earlier the better, or do you feel like even if somebody kind of hears about this a little late, they still have the opportunity to make it?
Yeah. Well, in my experience, every year the bulk of the students get on in the fall with the trips that go at the end of the spring semester. So it's after graduation, after you walk the line, whatever, so there's no issues there. We always go in mid-May. We also offer some in December as well when the breaks here for the college. But the best, as long as you've got 3 to 4 months, planning, and like Forrest said, he got on 9 months before. So if you get on in the fall and you don't go until May of next year, that gives plenty of time to get everything ready, to know what to do, to get your passport, applied for and received, and things like that. So again, pretty much what we do, we actually get on. Most people get on the tour 1 semester before they actually go. Yeah. Does that mean you can't get on the semester that we go? Yeah, you can. For example, when we go in May, people still get on as late as February. But then it's a compressed time frame, so it's just quicker. You have to get everything done. And it's just much easier if you get on early so that we can help plan and you've got more time to pay it off as well.
Yeah, if you already have a passport, that makes it a lot.
Expedites that process a little bit. And so it's good that you have all that kind of support. It sounds like, from the time that you decide you want to go to the time you decide to get on that plane and even through the entire tour, somebody is guiding you through that process.
Yes, there's always somebody there for help, like I said, and as a last resort, sometimes, most of the time EF is great with our different travelers, and if they have any issues where they can't get something done, they always contact me and they go, Kevin, you got it done for me. So don't worry, you always have the company that's doing the tour, and as well as myself. I've done so many of these, and my ultimate goal is to make it as smooth as possible for our students so they have fewer issues and they can concentrate on enjoying their tour and the different cultures they get to experience.
Fantastic. And do you feel for somebody who's never traveled before that this could be kind of like dipping your toes into the water? So it seems like you're going with a group, the events are structured. What kind of flexibility is there once you touch down? And then also what kind of safety or, what guidance is there once you get on the plane and you're where you need to go? I can see a lot of students being like, well, okay, am I going to be by myself once I get there? Am I going to know where to go? That kind of thing.
Well, what we typically do, we all meet together at the airport in Louisville, and then we go from there. We're all on the same flight going over. Once we land, the tour company's already there waiting for us, ready to pick us up, taking us from the airport to our hotel location. And what they typically do is, usually in almost every country you go to, there's at least 1 free day, which means look at what the itinerary shows and whatever else we don't do, because there's always so much to do everywhere you go. On that free day, you can pick what you want to do. But what we do for safety, I always tell people, don't go alone. Always, especially since you're in a different country, be with somebody else. Just pick one other person and be with that person. While we're overseas, we also give ways to contact each other. And I go over all that in the pre-departure meeting too, so that at any time, we'll all know where everybody's at for safety reasons. The tour company itself is very safe, and they only book things that are safe and at different places. So we do have that umbrella protection from that company that sends over 2 million students around the world every year.
Oh, wow. And so that's the thing. You feel like, Forrest, you can probably attest to this a little bit. The safety, you felt very comfortable with your group. You felt, like you were in a pod and that it all was easy to navigate and things like that. As somebody who'd never done that before, I could see that being a little overwhelming.
I never, had any issues as far as things like that. But one good thing is you have a tour guide there who knows the country, knows the language. And most definitely, if you're in a country where you don't speak the language, even just having somebody close by that who knows you, but I want to speak about that real quick. One thing, we talk about going overseas and the new culture and the different things, but also the people that I got to do the tour with. People from different parts, here and from different schools, and made some really good friendships with those people. There was a professor from North Carolina. She's a PhD chemistry professor, and she and I got to be pretty good friends. Even we still stay in touch, every now and then. So that too. I mean, of course, the other students, but also a lot of educators go on those trips too, and to get to talk to those people and spend that time with them. So no, and the way it's structured, a lot of the time is spent in some type of group activity. You do have, I had plenty of, so, I mean, I walked around Prague at night by myself, and of course, I'm an old man, I guess. But no, I never felt, I didn't stray too far, but yeah, I never really feared for my safety.
And just to let me put I guess another umbrella or another layer on top of that. ECTC never sends students to a country that's a level 3 or 4 with the U.S. Department of State. Yeah. Level 1 and 2 just means go, be safe, and have fun. Level 3 is reconsider travel, and level 4 is do not travel. We do not take students to any country that's a 3 or a 4. We only go to 1 or 2. And I can bring that up in our pre-departure presentation that we only take students to countries that are safe.
Oh, fantastic. And so there's a lot of guarantees that, you're going to get there, you're going to be okay, and then you're going to come back and you're going to have the time of your life. And that's fantastic. So flipping it over, we've talked about the student side, we've covered that there's plenty of ways that you can access this, afford this, and then enjoy this while you're there. What does it look for the community? Can the community go on these events, or do they go through a different avenue? What does it look like for somebody they hear about it and they're like, I think I would want to go?
Yeah, we actually have a lot of students that actually will bring their family members or significant others or niece or nephew or brother, sister, whatever. They can come as well, especially if the ones that we don't have a credit attached to. If it's a tour for culture only, yes, anybody can come, even in the community.
Fantastic. And so, you could bring, your mom, your dad, anybody who maybe you say all the time you want to travel. And then, it's really great that you could bring somebody, and then like you said, Forrest, just you're going to meet people there. You're going to almost form little groups and families in this as you all explore this together. And I think that's just fantastic. And so there's definitely a lot of benefits to this. Anybody can go. It's affordable. So what do you think, Kevin, Forrest, either one of you could probably chime into this. What do you think is the most significant impact that this will have on your life? If you had to sum this up and somebody says, well, why would I go? What was that one thing that you would tell them that would just make it happen?
Well, I want to add to what Forrest said. He said, to actually be in places that you only heard about. Like I'm talking about significant places like in the Auschwitz concentration camp inside of Poland, over 1 million Jews. That was the worst concentration camp. 1 million Jewish people were killed there, in addition to others as well. So over 1 million people were killed there, and there's just something about it, even though that's an auspicious type, subdued feeling. It's something about being there where it makes you appreciate what all those people had to go through. We actually saw a pile where when the ladies came in, they would shave their heads and then later make mattresses and pillowcases out of their hair. And when the war ended and they came in, there were still piles of hair and they still have one of those on display. It's just so sad to see. And to put that reality into perspective, it's just, to me, That's what makes it worth going, because you just don't get it until you go.
And so, Forrest, what would you say? That one thing that if you had to
Exactly, kind of
advertise?
what Kevin was talking about, if you're familiar with the size of this room that we're in, the FYE room, if you can imagine a room this size full of human hair,
Goodness.
or 3 rooms this size full of children's shoes. And when you look at those shoes, you realize that, each pair of those shoes is a kid that didn't make it, those things. But, when I asked that question, why would I do this? What am I going to carry away from it? Some of it doesn't really hit you for me, or at least for me anyway, it didn't really hit me until I was kind of there, and you realize, hey, I guess kind of like Dorothy says, we're not in Kansas anymore, but when it kind of hits you, hey, I'm on a different continent here, especially if you've never been outside of the United States, or I'm not just in a different continent, I'm in a different hemisphere. I'm on the other side of the world. This is great. And part of it also for me hit me when we came back home. And I mean, I'm not down in Detroit at all. But again, Detroit for me is kind of like Amsterdam, Holland. I've only been to the airport. It's the only part of Detroit I've ever seen. But there was also something about that. When you come home and you go, oh, wow, I'm home. This is, hey, this is great too. But so, I mean, I don't, it's just, there's a memory that can't be erased there. It's, I don't know how to describe it other than, how does it benefit me? Probably in a lot of ways that I don't even realize. I mean, I know that's sort of a silly answer.
No.
Yeah, but for me, like what we were talking about earlier, when you see, and of course I know the cultures as far as it goes are sort of the same, and they are modern societies, but we do things just a little bit differently. The cars are a little smaller. Most of them, they drive cars. Their commercial trucks are smaller than ours, and but one thing they do that I really liked, and it was done here in America a little bit years ago when I was a kid. You don't see too much of it anymore, but over there, and I'm going to repeat what I said from earlier. At midnight on Saturday night, their truck drivers, wherever they happen to be, they have to shut their truck off and sit there for 24 hours. They can't be on the major highways. That Sunday is a vacation day for everyone. That's and they open the country. That's pretty neat. Just a lot of different things for me. I know they don't. You go to some countries, they drive on the. They don't drive on. They all drive on the right side of the road there, but but I don't know. It's just so much, and you start to understand. Okay, well, hey, they're still getting everything done. Everything's working the way it should, and you start to realize, oh, okay, well, and I'm not down in America at all. We do things our way too, but then you start to see, okay, well, just because they do it different from us doesn't mean they're necessarily doing it wrong. It works for them and it's working. So you start to kind of get a perspective, for me anyway, that not just right or wrong, but a lot of times it's not right or wrong. It's just different. And becoming more accepting of that a little bit.
And I want to mention that, 'cause you're right, because I tell students when we go, like in Europe, they do not tip. You do not tip your servers.
Yeah.
Now, the funny thing is, in Europe, they don't do it the same way we do, but guess what? Their servers make much more money, and they have benefits like healthcare, they're full-time, things like that. They make a lot more money, but guess what? The food costs no more than it does here. So you get all this, they get all these extra benefits there, and you still don't have to tip. They actually take offense to it if you tip them. Same thing throughout the world, Japan, Australia, everywhere else. It's just something that Americans get used to. I'm not going to get into the history of why we tip here, but it's just something different, and to experience and to know that not everybody is like the U.S.
Yeah, I want to say one more thing. They don't, but there's trade-offs and everything. They don't tip, but you have to pay to use the bathroom. Okay, so, but it still works. It still works out a lot cheaper. Well, yeah, you don't necessarily have to pay to use it. You have to pay to use a decent bathroom.
Yeah.
That way. And some things are a little, I happen to be, I know this is silly, but, I happen to be using the bathroom and this woman comes in and she's mopping around and for an American, that's, none of, all the Europeans, that's sort of kind of off-putting a little bit for an American, for that to happen.
And that's good though, because that gives, like, for us and everybody else that goes, it gives you a frame of reference. We always think that whatever the U.S. does is the right way. We're on the side. There's people do things differently all around the world, even though we're all similar in culture, not the exact same culture. they still do so many things differently. And just those two things he mentioned right there with the food service and the restaurants and using the restrooms and things like that, it's all totally different.
Well, that's the thing. It sounds like if you were wanting to widen your horizons and, especially in this current political climate and things like that, I think that experience and seeing other cultures, seeing how things are done and realizing that it's like, Kentucky's just a small part of the world. There is so much more outside your front door that you haven't seen, you haven't experienced. I think that is incredibly valuable. And I, personally, just from hearing about it and the impact it's had on you, Kevin, in your life, and Forrest in your life as well, I think that you couldn't put a price on something like that. Getting to see that the world is so much bigger, so much more diverse than you would ever imagine. And it sounds like you get a lot emotionally from this and, just all kinds of great, great benefits. And it's wonderful to hear about it. I hope that we can encourage people to go on these trips and to understand that, the world is always changing, always evolving. Like you said, things are different some places, but some things are, some things are things you would never even think about. And, what is that going to do? How are you going to take that home and, see the world a little bit differently or help educate people and things like that. And so to touch on that just a little bit more before we finish, Kevin, you're involved in a lot of different groups centered around travel. Can you give some examples of projects you've been working on? Because I know you've had a couple of really exciting things happen this year.
Well, due to COVID, we had to push the tour off for this year and next year, but I still wanted to give our students some access to different cultures around the world. So I applied through a U.S. Department of State program and was awarded funding, so it's no cost to our students, where there are 20 ECTC students that will get to be exposed to Iraqi and Jordanian students. So what's going to happen is they're going to get to work with them throughout the semester, starting in a few weeks, and they're going to come up with a solution using technology to help make the world better. Now, the good thing is there's 20 teams worldwide. The U.S. Department of State is actually going to fund the top 3 teams. They can actually get that concept going. And so there's all kinds of different travel opportunities, even just through this type of thing with the U.S. Department of State programs that they, did award that for our college. We're only one of 26 colleges in the country that was chosen.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And so 20 of our students, and then like I said, even when we can't go physically, I try to do things like this to let our students be exposed to other cultures.
Well, that's fantastic. That sounds like you're opening the gateway to travel to many students who may have not had that, and to be involved in these excellent programs is fantastic. Again, I highly encourage you to reach out to Kevin. We'll make sure to include his contact information so that you have access to that, and then you can start getting into these trips and finding out if travel's right for you. And I feel like once you go once, you just got to go all the time. Are you thinking about attending another one for us? Like, when's the next trip?
I'll be getting my bachelor's degree in May. I'm not sure, of course, with the COVID and everything, I'm not sure exactly what things are going to look like then. I would like to take another trip, at least one, maybe as a graduation present to myself or anybody else that wants to chip in on it. I wouldn't, with Kevin and I were talking about that earlier, I would like to go to an Asian country, Japan, Thailand, maybe Australia, or just somewhere, on that side of the world. And I'm not downing anything at all. For me, a big thing is going to countries where they don't speak my language. Right. I would, I want to expose myself to as much as I can. I would at least like to, if nothing else, I'm old, so a lot of people might not get this, but, I do want to at least, when I get to the end of my life, or at least in my twilight years, which are coming up here in about 5 minutes, to be able to say, hey, I've been some places and I did some things. I got a chance to live a little,
Yes.
So that's a big thing for me. And I love history. So getting to go to these places and actually see, exactly what Kevin was talking about, how people live differently from the way we do. And there was one other thing I can't remember it. One thing in Vienna, one thing that I really liked was for every big avenue or street, there's a back lane, and over there pedestrians do not have the right of way. If you're standing in the back lane and somebody on a bicycle hits you, it's your fault. You get a ticket. That's true. Yeah.
Goodness.
and you see a lot more of that. People riding bicycles and. For me, I want to, not just see a different culture, but, for lack of a better word, different racial elements and societies than kind of like Kevin hit on, you know. So yeah, most definitely. Hopefully I'll get to make a trip to Asia next year or the year after.
And Forrest, I know you're a great person. You've been on one of my tours to many countries. You contact me. I'll make sure you go somewhere. Whether if we don't offer it, I'll make sure you go somewhere.
Okay. That'd be great. All right, sounds great.
Fantastic. So I'm so thankful that you guys joined us today. Again, this is the FYE Talks podcast. We've had Kevin Parrott and Forrest Poole here today talking about study abroad, shined a lot of really great insight onto how this program works, how it is totally accessible to all ECTC students. Contact Kevin. He will get you on that plane. He will get you there. He will change your life, and then you will be good to go. So again, we'll put his contact information down. We highly encourage you to reach out to him. Is there anything you'd like to close with, Kevin? And
like I said, it is doable. There's been so many students that came to my office or called me or emailed me or whatever, and they said, there's no way I can do this, but I really want to go. And I turned that I can't go into I am going. And they go, and then they get, like Forrest, he did it. He got so much out of it. There's people that I took that had never even been on a plane, and then they went to 5 or 6 countries in Europe or to Tokyo, Japan, or to Australia, New Zealand. So there's all the opportunity out there. You just have to take advantage of it when it's there.
fantastic. Well, thank you guys for coming on again, and we will see you next episode.
Thank you.